Okay, great. So we're recording now. Yeah, I'm super excited because I know that every bit of this is going to be epic in so many ways. And I'm super excited to dive into, all of your interests, Kat, and really allow you to start to, share the world as you see it, and as you'd like to see it and what you want to put out there into this system as the beginnings of whatever channels you want to start to, be a part of, right?
Right.
Whatever conversations you want to be a part of, you're the first one blazing the trail into all of those areas, right? And
Awesome.
yeah, it is awesome. And, as I've been talking with some of the other leadership council members, like some of them are already envisioning and committing to working on developing like a leadership council within that particular issue area, right? I want to work on disabilities. So within disabilities, I'm going to go ahead and start to assemble the stakeholders, the different nonprofits, the corporations, the experts, the funders, all the different elements that would be a part of a collective, resource pool, and that would help to, bring in the experts to create the expert solutions and the strategic solutions in helping to implement it. And, we're it seems as I'm still like working out like the recursive nature of this, the fractal nature of what we're creating.
Ah, good
It,
word, fractal. Now you're talking my language. I like that.
Awesome. Yes. So, the fractal nature of this, where, it seems like our leadership council right now is the leadership council for the whole framework, right? The collective solutions framework. So that's the name that I'm using for it now, the collective solutions framework. And it seems like essentially we are the ones that are visioning, how to bring this into the world at the moment. And then in all these very specific issue areas, it seems like, there similarly should be, a council of leaders that are, coming together to bring in all of the resources to connect and do their thing and create solutions, right? To use the framework. And I'm continuing to remember again how all of this is that uh, that's just my solution. That's just maybe Uniting for Action's solution if we go ahead and go forward in that way. And that solution will compete against the other solutions when there are other solutions showing up to compete, right? At the moment, since we are the solution and are the model, we define it and it just goes that way until somebody else shows up, right? So we're hosting the conversation and we're hosting the best of, but at least we get to start with whatever great starting point we want to start with. And so I'm super excited today to hear about all the starting points for all of these channels that you're going to speak into existence for us today. And I think part of it is for you to, focus on the different areas that you're interested in, that you want to be a part of the conversation, and also to think about it and talk about it in terms of what you visualize as the contributions needed in those channels in the three dimensions that we've been talking about: the time and talents, like what type of people do we need to show up here with what kinds of skills and experience and whatever, to support the solutions here. And then what sort of finances are needed to be collected, what sort of, vision of a budget, a collective budget, could we imagine could something be done with? And then on the, the relationship capital, who do we need to be connected to? What organizations do we need to develop relationships with? All of that whole relationship side of things. So that's kind of the way that I see that we can most valuably use our time right now with you and allowing you to create, your world into the existence. That and the other part of it is what we were doing before in our last conversation, as much as you want to, which is for you to be reflecting on Uniting for Action and the framework and the different breakthrough systems and any ways that you want to, introduce ideas or concepts, or, like we talked about in the texting, ways that different transformational organizations like gratitude or essence of being or landmark could come into play with some enrolling, even of just different, people. Like, I don't know if we had, I won't go off on that tangent now. I want to let you have the whole field, but I want to kind of set the stage for the way that I'm seeing it organizationally. Is there's that one dimension that we've already been resonating on, which is what could Uniting for Action be, and what is Uniting for Action being, and what would you like to bring in, like you've already been doing with, hey, I want to connect you with this person, and hey, have you looked at that, and those sorts of things, so that that's a part of it. And then the other part, like we've talked about, are the issue areas that you are really, that you really want to be a part of that conversation. So start wherever you'd like, and please take it away.
Awesome. Well, before I get started on that, I wanted to acknowledge that you've had a lot of people that you've been working with in a very concerted effort over the last many months, possibly a year, more years. And you shared some of the clips, with their permission. It seems like very intelligent, thoughtful people. And I wanted to acknowledge their contribution on the project. We're all working toward a shared goal, and you brought these people together who are getting together on regular meetings and discussing this concept of this framework that you provided. And I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm aware of that. I've watched some of the things, and I think it's great.
Thank you for saying that. That's really good. I'm sure
of course.
They're really happy to hear that too. That's really awesome.
And as I've been sharing since I've re-met you, because we met in Landmark many years ago, we can't remember when, probably 06, 07, whatever. I've forwarded your materials to many people. Obviously, the gentleman in Canada wants to have a conversation. We'll talk about that offline. I've sent many things out. And so far, one of the most intriguing figures that is very interested in jumping on board right away. I'll share with you offline about him, but this is a gentleman who has 5 degrees, who worked in Washington for a think tank, who lived in Malibu, California for many years recently, and is now like kind of on the move, figuring out his next move in life. But his whole thing is about making a difference for people. And he's been doing that in the last 2 years for sure, in the realm of plant medicine. And I know plant medicine is a bit of a controversial discussion because there's the legality of it, and there's, the discussion about drugs and things like that, good drugs, bad drugs. But I've already shared the materials with him, and I think we should set a goal to have a conversation with him as soon as possible, and the gentleman from Canada. So that said, I think that we should do a general reach out to all of our Landmark, Essence of Being, and Gratitude people, because Gratitude and Landmark brought us together. We share that sense of, wow, when you get self-development, you can create so many things because your brain is kind of free of new space. Kind of like if you look at the human being as bandwidth, it's like when you go through one of these programs, and I've never been through Essence of Being, but my experience, and she said that I could share her name, Kat Olarte. She met you there, and she was so excited that I'm working with you. And she's actually flying to Colombia to do a session of plant medicine in their native, whatever that is, in January. And then she's also very into gardening. So we've kind of come up with this theme of plants, like how plants would help humanity, eating more plants, ingesting certain kinds of plants. That seems to be a theme that's just hitting me all over about like the importance of plants in one's life. But she is probably going to be wanting to get involved with us in February. And so
great. It's so
she
great.
met you through Essence of Being. She probably never, I don't think she ever did Landmark. I think I mentioned it to her, but we met through a high-tech company, and she also works for a high-tech company now. So technology is definitely the way to kind of bring people together at the lowest, we've talked about lowest cost for the most impact. And we just have to figure out the best way to do that. And it seems like some of the things I've been seeing, you've been starting to build out that framework with United for Action.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I want to address what you're saying about Kat, because it's so great that she's so excited about it, because it has been so many years since we connected. But we had a really nice connection back at Essence of Being, where we were, not just going through the programs together, but being in the orbit, around Essence of Being together for a while. And we even went so far, I went to where she worked on Hollywood Boulevard back in the day. I don't know if you know
Connections.
that.
They were my client. We used to do marketing for them. We completely revamped their marketing a couple of years ago. Yep.
Yeah, so that's great. I remember visiting her at her office there just to see if there was some way we could do some business together, trying to figure out if there was some business thing, but we never did business together, but stayed friendly in that orbit. But again, I've been out of that orbit for so long, but like I told you, I reached out to Burge, and I'm expecting to talk to her soon, the founder of Essence of Being. And there have been other Essence of Being people that I've been very connected with for many years that I'm sure are also going to be very in all of this. And I think that Burge, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm encouraged and excited to see where Burge and I can go with this in terms of having more of a infusement of the whole, Essence of Being community. Let's just say transformational, program community, whether it's Essence of Being, Gratitude, Landmark. I think all three of them will be involved. It's just a matter of time. The other thing is, I think I told you that I spent some time with Joe. Maybe I didn't get into this, but Joe Engelson, the founder of Gratitude, and I were on a cruise together, the Zen cruise, many years ago, back in 2013, I think it was, something like that. Maybe it was 15.
I always thought the founder of Gratitude was a woman. Did she take over at some point? Okay.
Yeah, but her name is Joe. J-O.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard great things about her for sure. Yeah.
She's awesome. And she and I had a great conversation on the cruise about the ways that a framework like this could be used with a transformational organization like that has the people power. You match the people power with the framework and, explosion. So exactly. So we had that conversation, that many years ago, but before all of this framework existed and all of that. So it's time for a conversation with her. I feel like she, would be a good fit for an early person on the leadership council, but I just haven't had that, conversation with her yet. But I think there's a lot of people within the Gratitude community as well as, within Landmark that, again, it's like a natural fit, right? It's like all of those people are trained up to be, ninjas,
difference makers
and be ninjas in the world, but there's just never been like a ninja toolkit like we're creating. There's just never been a framework within which all of those people could be fully activated and with each other, right? Which seems kind of crazy when you think about it, right? For all of those different organizations, that there's never been an infrastructure created that's allowed them to just synergistically create with each other all the time in all aspects of life. So, just to be providing that to these people alone, let alone to give them the opportunity to create the world with this, right?
Yeah, so, if this takes off like the kindling lightning fire, I think it could be a recruiting tool for new courses, because it always amazed me. Like Landmark's like my favorite program. It's where I really got transformation, some of my best years in life, which I'm now declaring are ahead of me. But like seriously, from 2007 to about 2011, even earlier than that, I was in all the Landmark programs, and we should probably even aim to have a forum leader type person involved at some point, because this is a high level conversation that is really about impacting the world. And Landmark was the first place where, I think it was SELP, where they show the chart. Here's you on the chart, and here's your community, right? And you've got communities, you've got church, you've got sports, you've got, whatever. And then you have a couple levels up and you have the world. And they've always talked about that. And it makes you think, like, how much do I often think about the world? Probably not that much. I'm like dealing in like, how do I survive? Okay, I got survival handled. Now, how do I have fun? Maslow's hierarchy Those basic needs have to be met for people, and then they can think about the transformational things. So since this is kind of all encompassing, the work of United for Action, I think that we need to look at eventually getting very high level people involved from any and all of these self-development type organizations, because the people drawn to them are the people that want to make a difference beyond their circles.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. There's no question about that. I have people in mind. You've mentioned some people I know some people. So it's very quickly, I think there are definitely going to be some
Snowball effect.
Yeah, exactly. Some influential people in those different organizations that are going to be getting involved, that are going to draw others in. And yes, it definitely will be the snowball effect. And that's why, I mentioned Jo, because I do want to reach out to her relatively soon and have a conversation about her being on the leadership council, as soon as she's ready. And I think that, again, if she did that, that's a game changer just by herself. And again, Burge and I will have that conversation soon. And I did meet, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I don't know if you'll remember, but back then, did you do the ILP?
3 times.
3 times. Okay. Wow. Wow. So back then when we were doing it, it was the woman who was on the video when you watched the video of leading. Do you remember her name?
I don't remember her name, but she's one of the core founder people. Like the president of Landmark knows her well.
Right.
They put her on the website doing the overview.
Right. And she and I connected at an event a few years ago. And just connected just because I was like, sharing the vision, and she was like, this is great. And it's funny because I need to find her phone number, which is in an old phone, not even the phone before the phone, but I think the phone before that phone. Somewhere in some box is a phone that I have to find. Right. But I have to find the cord to, and then I somehow have to, I don't know, I will find her and the others that, are the perfect ones for us to connect with. And then there's also, one of our seminar leaders is somebody that I'm getting ready to reach out to. And it's weird because I don't want to just say people's names if I haven't gotten their permission to talk about them.
Exactly. I was going to look it up for you because the Landmark person, I think her overview is on the Landmark website. That's how long, but they can look it up, landmarkworldwide.com.
Yeah. And so that's the thing is I'm still, I want to say this person and that person, but if we're not even talking to them, I want to be sensitive about that. So getting back, so that's a whole world. And yeah, I see us blowing that up really quickly. And that's going to be a big, big support because again, I think it's a super attraction for all of those people to be able to finally have an online world that they can, create at the level that they've been trained at. That's the thing is our training has exceeded our tools to be able to implement the training is what it comes down to.
Correct. People don't have, the social media that's out there nowadays, and this is not that this is social media, but that's kind of where it's in the genre. It's a technology platform where people are communicating, discussing. It's been kind of usurped by dollars. So if we just say Google, which I think is one of mankind's greatest inventions, it's also become a dangerous tool because if you have enough money, you can purchase bots and social media workers that are typing various things that aren't necessarily based in fact. And what United for Action wants to stand for is how do we vet a fact and then we share that fact aimed toward the best solution to a problem. And I've been practicing sharing the message for the past week or so, and Landmark people are the first to get involved. So one person I can share because I have his permission. His name is Richard Ten. He's a Landmark graduate, and he was so happy with Landmark that he started his own little program. You had mentioned you had never done the communication or team programs, but he and I were both on team 2. So we both did those extra years of training. And at some point he realized that people were getting away from going to the class and they liked the virtual. So he created a program called Quest. And Quest is about creating miracles, something like creating miracles using the Landmark technology. And from creating that program, of which I participated for 1 quarter, because they go in 3-month cycles, and it is free to participate. He drew in a very famous gentleman who has written a #1 best-selling book on Amazon about the science of creating miracles. So I've personally now, since meeting you, a day later, met that gentleman just because I told Richard about what you had, and just because of some of the words made sense enough for him to go, whoa, something big's going on. I want her to meet him, and then maybe he. And so he's aware of the efforts. I haven't yet sent him like a formal email, but he and I are talking about a course he delivers in January on miracles, and the synergy here is palpable.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And with what you shared about Michael last time as well, I mean, there's so many connections that are all coming together through you, which is amazing. I want to honor and appreciate you for being at the center of this vortex of energy. You know, in my experience, like Abraham teaches, you know,
Yes, the
you are
vortex.
you are in the energy, you are holding the energy, it's all spinning around you. So that's not a coincidence, and that's not, you know, a tribute to me or anybody else. That's you. And I appreciate, you know, that energy vortex that is existing around you. And I'm very grateful that you're bringing it into Uniting for Action, so we can all combine our vortexes and, you know, create one on the scale that allows all of this to happen as quickly as possible. You know, it's like we know it's going to happen, but we're racing against time because of all of these things that are getting worse and worse and worse every day, until we, you know, organize at the scale to be able to start turning the tide. So we are, you know, racing every day. And, you know, I feel that you've just naturally done that. So I want to, again, you know, thank you and acknowledge you for just like, as soon as this was in your presence, you understood and valued the inherent, you know, intelligence and wisdom in it, to say, it doesn't matter who is saying this, it's just that this is so. I want to share this with others so that we can together create this, you know, and it's really awesome to see that.
Actually, you know, that makes me think of the word community, because any technology automatically generates an online community. And I think why I've spotted this so quickly, what you're working to create, is, you know, we all kind of take the genes and the upbringing from our parents. And my dad had a very successful $30 million business in the state of Wisconsin. He was the CEO. So there was a community of 110 employees doing commercial printing. And then my mother was always active in community, historical society, Meals on Wheels, head of volunteers for the local hospital, like community. And so I think the main thing that we need to create here, or get people excited about, is an authentic, honest community. And how do you do that? Because once again, when money gets involved with online things, it can be very polluted toward anybody who has the money. So somehow we need to use our heads here and figure out, how do we create a neutral community where the information somehow, the best information flows to the top for the best solutions that will cause the best for society in the shortest amount of time at the lowest cost. And I think that's what we're standing for. That's what excited me about meeting you, because it seemed like that's what you were standing for the past 5 years of holding yourself up in your home and not really paying attention to anything going on, and realizing what needed to be done, even though you had $5 billion ideas and you were ready to do NDAs and make it happen as a consultant. Now you need to give it away to society, and we need to build from there a corporation. So community needs to be a big part of what we're thinking, because it is some kind of technologically driven community. And certainly we can create the smarts enough to make that zone where the 99% voice can get recognition enough that the corporate sponsors with the money can pay attention.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And thank you for breaking it down that clearly, and for bringing your, brilliance and expertise to the table to say that, I see that this is something important enough to make, to voice, communicate, to make sure we make a priority. And I agree. And let me share another tidbit with you to kind of help in this realm, to let you know my consciousness around it. I actually, in a lifetime before a lifetime ago, I was the membership director of the zoo in Seattle, the Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle.
So you love animals like I do. I love animals.
I love animals, and I have the experience of understanding what it is to be a membership director and understand what it is to build a membership and to grow a membership and that sort of thing. They actually sent me down to the San Diego Zoo at the time to learn from them, since that was like the premier zoo in the country with membership, and they taught me some very important lessons. And so that's one thing that this organization will be a membership organization that then, like you're saying, how do we cultivate like that closeness, that intimacy? And I think as you were asking that or posing that, what was going through my head is by this, like that a lot of the content on this site in this world are these kinds of conversations between people, right? And then, some highlights are pulled out, it's chopped up so that, somebody doesn't have to watch an hour-long video to get the 2 minutes that are relevant to them, or the 30 seconds that they care about. So we have the level of processing to be able to get all of this chopped up. And actually, as I'm saying that, I was actually doing that myself for our last video. So I haven't chopped it into the video pieces, but I want you to see. Can you see that? I know the text is small on your screen.
Okay, so it even has like a what do you call that when it's the words? The script. Yeah, the transcript. Yeah, beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah, some of it does. So this is the link itself. So I don't know, do you know that in YouTube you can actually link to a certain timestamp? So like where this starts at 27:39, when I click on this link, it actually takes me to 27.
Oh, that's pretty neat. Nice. Yeah, you've obviously become very adept with those editing tools, which is so important to get the best information. In the time since we met, I found a marketing agency in Detroit that the guy said something like, the world gets created in a soundbite or something. And I was like, yeah, sound bites are that's about how much bandwidth people have today to make a nano action different. And I love your word nano action. Like, it's so brilliant. People know there's nanotechnology and nanoparticles, and nano action just like makes total sense. But your whole conversation, I know environment is a passion of yours because we mentioned it from our first meeting. And I actually was director or assistant director of marketing, doesn't matter the title, but involved in the South Florida Commuter Services, which is a tri-county rideshare program. We did that for 4 years, paid for by the state of Florida and the Florida Department of Transportation. We got like 2 million cars off the road by having people match up who were going from A to B that they met to carpool.
Oh, wow.
And we like vetted them for safety, and then we also had van pools going from Broward to Dade that you could jump into and register for. And it was a membership program. Now, it was a free membership, free in the sense it was paid for by government, right? But what we did was I shared at a conference in Tampa with rideshare programs throughout the country on the best marketing tools to get people excited about ride sharing. So this was just an exemplary example of what you're trying to do. I remember sharing a 30-minute presentation. I had public relations, how we got on the news. I had, how we got onto NPR so they could have people call and register themselves if they really were sick of paying for the high gas prices. Like, it was just an example of what you're talking about at the best. It was just, yes, it was funded by government, which is our taxpayer dollars, but everybody loved the program. Like, there
Yeah.
might have been 5% of the people, I don't like who you match me with, whatever, but mostly the thing worked like a charm. And then we had everybody else to leverage. And you still see on 95, 1-800-234-RIDE signs on I-95. That's how much of an impact that program made.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. Thank you for doing that. It's amazing that you have that background, and I can see where, all the experience that you would have around that would, be embodied within, your whole consciousness around all this. It's really amazing. And what you just shared about the ways that you shared best practices with other ride shares around the country, like you said, we've always known that, like, we're taking it to a higher level when we do something like that. Like, everyone that participated, everybody that got to hear you, whatever they learned, they were grateful that they didn't have to relearn that themselves, right? And yet, to not have a systematic way of doing that across all of society. And if we did have a systematic way of learning from everybody about everything, from never ever doing anything the first time again, right? When you're doing it the 1,000th time with 1,000 learning experiences to learn by, so plug and play at that point, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I was just in the previous meeting, we were talking about the fact that, again, so the whole practice of learning best practices in an area and developing strategies, and then that whole technique, normally the best case scenario is that we are able to learn best practices within one issue area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, all the experts within one issue area can learn best practices, and all in another. But now with the system, not only do they all learn within one issue area, but that issue area informs this one, which informs this one, which informs this one. So now we're learning across all the issue areas as well. It's like we're exponentially multiplying the opportunity for learning at scale across society. It's just like mind-blowing when you think about, like, how this is like a literally quantum leap, in the operation of our society.
Yes. And what you're saying now makes me think of healthcare, another one of my pet issues. My day job right now is processing healthcare applications for large groups and small groups in the Florida area. And, in seeing the prices for healthcare for your average family, like if they have 4 kids or something, which is so rare, but obviously healthcare needs, that's huge. And what I'm seeing here is when I worked for that software company that you're aware of, it was a high-tech company that interfaced with hospital systems to devices, to share data to mobile devices. We had feature requests. So the healthcare providers would say, listen, this is the most important feature for us that you build into the next build. Right. So it was a prioritization that happened where the software engineers were being dictated wisely by the customer. We weren't the ones saying, we're going to add these features and you deal with it. We were asking the customers constantly, what do you want to see? What do you want to see? Yeah. And then within that quarter, hopefully we'd work on the most wanted feature. Yeah. So if you translate that to what you have kind of in an odd way, but it will translate. So everybody wants to be more healthy, but drinking more water, right? So then how do you get people to drink more water? And what kind of water should it be? Well, that would be a sub issue that would rise to the surface really quickly of the healthcare problem. You will see a subspace of water consumption. And then over here might be like essential oils. And a lot of these things have been done by network marketing companies who sell those products, and they educate their people, and then they get a lot of awareness going with their customers. or, like that. And what I see is possible with this space is that if we then have like the dual screen, like a neutral debate where I am the essential oil person and you are the drink more water person. And now we're going to have a neutral space where I'm just like spitballing now because I don't even know, I'm creating as we go. We have a neutral debate space, nice and clean, like a college debate space. Like we are not going to use profanity. We are not going to offend people. We are going to come to the table armed with facts and data to make a 3-minute or 10-minute debate on why, if everybody were to do this, it would have a faster result in society for the lower cost than this one. Right. And I mean, we could create that kind of space, edit it, put it out there. And now as people get really intrigued by all this happening on this platform, they're going to want to come and consume the information because it's distilled and it's interesting and it's neutral and it's not inflammatory and nobody's name calling. And now, geez, I was going to buy that orange oil at Whole Foods, but now I think I really need to get a water distiller, and save up for that because I'm 80% water, and then maybe I'll do the oils if I have time. I'm just throwing it out there. Like those are both great things, but like, that's the kind of thing, if we're prioritizing the nano actions of a larger and larger and larger percentage of society, that's where you get some real results.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're hitting the nail on the head. And I really appreciate the way that you're processing all of the ideas of the nano actions and the issues and all of that, and reframing them and reflecting them. It's really, it's
as
really
a human, I'm going through, like, here we go. Here's can you see, this is my glass of water. It's probably not going to show up because it's clear. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So I'm trying to drink more water.
Right.
Yeah.
Mostly water, tea.
I
need my throat coat so I can keep talking.
There you go. I used to actually give throat coat to a lot of the forum leaders. Very popular tea.
It's the only way I can talk all day, but when I drink it consistently, I can talk all day, which is great.
Right. So
the thing I wanted to say, if you don't mind, about what you just said, because I want to add a layer for you that you'll get to intuitively, but I'll add it for you now, is so what you just described in terms of like the debate, that's some content that gets created, right? And so this will be a natural space of all of this content getting created, right? So there will be all kinds of conversations around water and this and all of that, right? And then you, as somebody that cares about that and wants to show the people that know that you're an authority, so to speak, in this area, then you show them the content that you want them to see, right? So you're basically curating from the world of content, and you're sharing like what is the content that passed, CAT seal of approval. And so you're, as much as you want, you're sharing or approving or liking or whatever way it looks, content in all these different channels, right? Like somebody can tune into these channels and they can say, what is Kat like in this channel? Who does she recommend in this channel? And so that's where essentially everyone, you think about influencers, in social media, essentially everyone gets to be an influencer in this world. And everybody's doing that to a certain degree in Facebook and Instagram and stuff, right? With what they promote or what they say, they're influencing their friends, but it's a little bit more sophisticated and deliberate in this area because we're being very open about the issues and the solutions and the things that, we're supporting and the things that we want, people to know about or be aware of or what have you. And it's all a permission-based system, right? That's an important aspect of all of this, is that you're never getting spammed with content that you never asked for. You're only following paths of information that inspire you to go down those paths, right? So, but in that way, that's where people's connections with somebody like you that is holding, divergent paths into other areas, they find you because of your commonality around these one things or around these 20 things. Oh, but Kat's also into this. I've never looked at that. Like maybe I want to look at that, type of thing. Or you guys start a conversation. And then the other thing I was going to say in terms of like how we elevate, the space in all of this is, like I said, I think it's going to be a lot of this very authentic, open communication. And I think that that's going to be a real foundation of this whole system, is a lot of Zoom calls. And then, like we were just saying, where this video gets, I just want to show you again, because I didn't get to finish, but let me just show you, and then we'll continue. What I was showing you in terms of chopping it up, not only do I have like the link and the transcript and the timestamp, it's the timestamp because this is the actual clip I'm going to pull out. And this is another one, and this is another one. And actually the bold ones are the ones that are going to do first. So, but this is how many clips I've designated from our first video that we did the other day.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great. Yeah.
Look at it. Look at this. Look at all those clips.
Right. But imagine if you had a team of people, and I don't care if they're in India, America, China, like people are drawn to this, they're going to want to assist in working for the enterprise that's doing editing, that's forwarding humanity.
Yeah, totally.
Not just making a buck.
No, you're totally right. And that's where actually the interns have been doing this. I have been training the interns on doing this. It's just that we're getting so close to the end of the semester that we're now in wrap up phase, and we're focusing on presenting all that they've been doing.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah. They're actually going to be presenting for the Leadership Council. So they may be in person, or they're going to put it together in video, but we're going to get the presentation of what they've been working on. So otherwise, yes, that's what I've been realizing, is that how do we turn what I just showed you into a protocol? That's what we've been doing, is creating protocol systems with these scorings and that sort of thing, so that then anybody can show up to do this nano action. This is a nano action. Anybody can show up to do this. And then we get to see, based on performance metrics, whether they're reliable as somebody that we can count on to do this well. And so this is where, again, we're taking the idea of it and we're turning it into like an automated function through algorithms, so that we don't have to have like a human management oversight, as much as possible. So that's where, and then once we perfect this system that I'm describing with the protocols and the algorithms and all of that, then anybody can use that anywhere, like you're saying. So now anybody that's having conversations with anybody can, hire or enroll people to process their videos, so that then, again, they can be edited together, they can be categorized, all of that information that's just shared in one conversation now can live in the world and be built on by others, rather than lost into space and never land anywhere in society outside of the two people having the conversation. So again, you see how like every conversation becomes a part of our archive of knowledge and information collectively. And when automatically combined with everybody else's, now, at our fingertips, as we're speaking things, things are landing on our screen about, what exists and, where all the connections are. I mean, we're about to hyperspace in terms of processing of what, having conversations or anything does. In the world right now, there's so much talk, but now we're turning it into an actionable system where all of that talking is actually making us progress to creating results. Like, how crazy is that we can automate that system, that we can start to talk things into existence just by matching them up with the sufficient resources required in order to manifest all the different things that have to happen in order for it to be done. But because we're modeling all these different things in society, basically whatever we describe has already been done, and there's already a market rate, and there's already contractors, and there's everything in place to just say, I pay $1 million, and boom, it all happens because everything's there already.
Yeah, that's mind blowing. I know I was listening to the links you sent and some of the meetings you had with your team, your intern team, and I was starting to see the vision of, you could have this small issue and then boom, all the things are going to roll up under that, and they're bidding for the opportunity to be part of that issue. One of the partners I think we should look at, and I don't know how we'd even go about it, but obviously TED, Technology, Entertainment, Design, has a wealth of data, information, statistics, sound bites that are part of, I guess, YouTube. They're mostly published on YouTube.
TED Talk, right?
TED Talks by city. And then there's the big one out in Monterey, California. But like, they've talked about everything under the sun for the past however many years since TED's been around.
Right.
Certainly since I think the turn of the century. I don't know, but I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure after 2000. So somehow like TED would be a wonderful partner because it's TED Talks. If you look at it, it's what we want. It's rated G or PG, so nobody's gonna be offended.
I think that's such a brilliant idea, because with a partnership with TED, we could basically take their whole library and populate the channels with their whole library all at once. We'd have like a whole fully populated system with TED Talks at all the distributed ends of all of these channels almost instantly. I mean, we can definitely do a lot of artificial intelligence processing of all of those
keywords. Like, who do you know that doesn't like TED? Who hasn't gotten value? They may not have a lot of time to spend looking at the videos, but certainly if somebody spoke locally in their city. And what I love is it's been such a democratic process. I worked on a PowerPoint for a forum leader, and her TED Talk is online. Happy to share it. She'd be happy for me to share it. Jocelyn Herman Saccio out of New York did a TED Talk on abracadabra, which is a Hebrew word that means magic, and how she, from doing the forum and many other things, she declared what she wanted in her life. And, lo and behold, she kicked Whitney Houston off of the charts one week in the 80s or 90s because she wanted to be a pop star. She declared it through the technology of landmark and abracadabra, and she did that. So like, that's a beautiful TED Talk that exists in the world. And I can't remember where she delivered it, but there's a beautiful democracy that goes into the creation of TED Talks, who gets picked because they have to apply with a very thoughtful essay on why they should speak. They're vetted. And now you have all this information about all the world's issues, from economy to environment and beyond.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And we'll start to do our own like that as well. I definitely want to have TED Talks, but I also want to create some formats that are like in that vein, right? Like,
well, yeah, like they're not right now framed in a solution thing. They're just on anything.
Yeah. And I think, just the idea of creating like a standardized, like 3-minute or 5-minute or 10-minute or different lengths of time that are like the standard, like nuggets or whatever we call them, but something that people can, it's like a standardized way of consuming information, right? Like, I have time to listen to like a 5-minute one right now. I have time to listen to a 10-minute one right now, developing like a favorites list, like, fully integrated into all these things. Because also, obviously, like you were saying, TED Talks are limited to the people that have done the TED Talks, but you could do a 3-minute talk right now, a 5-minute talk right now, a 10-minute talk that could live in here. And so we'll work on those formats. So right now, what you and I are doing is we're doing it conversationally, and then we're going to chop up, pieces of it and use different pieces for different parts. And, I want to, for a moment, at least, and we've talked about a lot that's really supported Uniting for Action and all of the ways that we're you're helping to give us direction, like with the community. And we could spend more time on that now too. I think just to say, I think part of it is kind of naturally handled by having the channels, because the channels are where people are, gathering both in real time, right? There's 3,000 people on this channel right now. What do you want to say to them? The opportunity to be in a room, with all the other people that are there right at that moment. And, to have like a real time live interaction where like people are saying things, people are voting things up, like there's things trending in the room right in that moment based on, you get what I mean? Like a whole like real time interaction. Like, what technologies can we invent to create this whole real time interaction? Different questions being posed, different experts there. I mean, again, it starts to get quite amazing when we think about all the different ways that we get to play with all of this once we, have people showing up. But then also there's the whole, subscribers to that channel that aren't necessarily there at the moment, but, get alerts whenever they want, either by email or on their phone or whatever. especially for issues that are topical and are having, news in real time. And I'm trying to remember if I mentioned it last time. If I did, remind me. But we've thought out to where, once we're having the experts for action system and all these experts are plugged in, then anything that's on the news, like essentially we're convening a panel that night about that topic of, top experts live answering, your questions, and, if appropriate, many different panels. It will be across many different issues. I mean, imagine like 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 panels being assembled on a daily basis to address all these different issues across society, right? With real experts every day, new content that's getting thrown into this collective, knowledge base and understanding, and people taking the conversation to the next level, the next day continuing. So again, the community aspect, like you mentioned, I think is going to be, and it's great because I'm sharing all of this also in a way being very naive about what exists already. I haven't been investigating how people are creating community, so I'm very interested to see what the experts have to say when we start having the expert. We'll post this. This will be the first posting on the Gathering of the Community channel, and then we'll see what experts we get to show up here, or what student interns want to take this up to become, setting the best practices for creating community within this framework across the country, because there'll be lots of different instances of uses of the framework where people will be wanting to create community around that instance, right? So again, we get to learn best practices across all of the implementations. And so I think that, again, at the moment, what I see just like is happening right now, and I'm thinking about the younger people with TikTok and Discord, which I haven't even been on yet. But we're also how popular the reaction videos are on YouTube, right?
And TikTok, big time. Huge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I need to start to get, I see TikTok videos on YouTube sometimes, but I haven't really been, I've only jumped on TikTok a couple times. So I guess I'll need to start to consume, but, just seeing all the reaction video, I've watched a lot of them, and I've been really trying to understand the human dynamics, because I also like watching them, and I'm trying to understand what is it about this that makes me want to watch somebody else talking about this thing that I've already seen 10 other times.
I'll tell you. I think I know. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, please.
It's what your platform is about. 1 + 1 = 3. When you're watching somebody watch something and react, in the shortest amount of time, you're getting more information, because the nuance of nonverbals, you're getting some information, you're getting a reaction to the information, you formed an opinion about the original information and that person consuming it, and now you've come up with your own conclusion about what they're discussing. So there's a 1 + 1 = 3 thing.
Yeah, and I think, just to close that thought, I think that's where having a lot of that type of thing, that's one technique, as an example, right?
Exactly.
Creating connection with people, and these people clearly doing a good job of creating connection. And we're going to be inviting a lot of those people that are influencers already and that already have an audience to come and create content with us, right? To come and be a part of all of this. The whole influencer aspect is something that's big. And actually, I went very deep into it a couple of years ago. So this is the first time I'm sharing this in the Uniting for Action context. This has been under wraps for all these years still. So I
have a way of bringing that out in you. That's why you keep inviting me to talk.
Yeah, you are.
It's in my listening.
You're absolutely right. 100%. You're right. 100%, which is awesome.
What is it? I'm eager to hear.
Yes, it's called the Influencer Army. So I own the influencerarmy.com. And the influencer army is really designed to have influencers all over come together as an organized army, essentially around whatever issues they care about, right? So again, it's kind of like setting the whole world of influencers off within the system now that we're building out this framework. But really, more than anything, it's helping to enroll the influencers in the power that they have, that they're reluctant to use because there's all kinds of concerns that they have about being in part of issues or supporting this issue and not supporting that, all kinds of things. So really it's to help them optimize their power to create difference in the world. Because when we're talking about, reaching people, the most, and that's how this all came to me years ago, is the most leveraged way to reach people is through these influencers that can reach 50 million at a time and 100 million at a time and 20 million at a time. Like if you want to get the word out anywhere, just, get 10 of them to work with you and now you're reaching 100 million people, right?
Exactly.
So, exactly. So to me, this is a big, big part of what we'll be doing over time is the influencers are going to, not just the biggest, all influence. And that's why I'm saying everyone becomes an influencer within their own network, within, what I'm describing. And people can even carve out areas that they're going to become influencers in that they know nothing about. They just aspire to, and they'll be able to use the system to, gain their reputation points and all that, and eventually become an influencer there, right? So it's like open opportunity for everybody around everything. Anybody can
super democratic, amazing. And people that are super passionate about the way that we're doing things around solutions have an opportunity to become a brand new, super effective influencer. We'll be tracking their new followers on our United for Action platform. This makes me think of something you said, best practices. I think those are my two favorite words, because what's happening right now is in many ways, and not at anybody's fault, just the way it happened, is worst practices. Worst practices meaning people are either selling a product, which may not be the best product, but somebody had a lot of dollars to pay to sell it for, they paid the influencer to sell it, right? Yeah. And maybe it's a chemical laden skincare for women, which the chemicals are going to ultimately make the woman look more aged, but she's super attractive and she's super charismatic. And she just got a $10,000 a month contract from TikTok to sell this skincare that's not going to help women, but they're going to buy it like crazy. So that's not optimal. And so the fact that if we something came to mind when we were talking about TED. So for example, if we start to create how when you want to talk about a solution and publish it with us, you need to learn how to cut different sound bites, one from a academia, 30 seconds from a TED talk that's relevant, you know what I mean? And say that we carve up what we want you to put together on a solution video. Oh my goodness, now you're cooking with gas, because you're telling this new or established influencer how to now start to talk about something where people can have, well, wait a minute, that's a person from Harvard, and now he just quoted a really cool person on TED Talk, and now he's got some data released recently, so it's not old data. Like, we can actually put together these frameworks and get people having more powerful discussions through their own editing by providing a powerful framework, and then we can keep enhancing, and that's going to draw people like crazy, because what's needed is authenticity and honesty. We're not getting that right now because it's worst practices, including all the name calling and all the ineffectual protestation type discussion. I mean, protesting, like you said, we really have a heart for the protesters and what they're up to create change, but that ain't the way to do it. That's just not. I know ain't is bad grammar. That is not the way to go about creating change.
I understand what you're saying. And I think that, protesting is in some cases an important first step to create awareness. But once you've created the awareness, then what do you follow it up with? And that's been the sticking point for our society. And so I think because of that, oftentimes the protests have continued beyond the point of utility because people don't know what else to do other than to protest. They don't know where else to put their energy as a next step. There is no next natural step in our society.
There's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go. And that's, and as I told you, this system got built out of that energy, so for sure, this helps solve that. This helps give everybody a place to go to create action. That's why we're uniting for action, is that it's the opportunity for those of us that want to take some action in any area to find the others that also want to take action in that area and find a way that we can agree on some action that we can take together.
The one thing that comes up for me is journalism. So journalism, back when my mom studied it at University of Madison, and then I went into public relations, which is the offshoot of journalism. It's where you share with the press a great new idea, and then they write about it ideally. It's all become kind of bought and paid for. And we know that. We know when we listen to the news, of course, they need sponsors to pay for it. We're not going to begrudge them the fact that they need to keep the lights on and they like the profit, right? Because they have shareholders too. But journalism and facts, we need a solution for that. Fact checkers,
And think about this too, because I've been envisioning this, because again, we're going to be the framework to provide a lot of content, right? From a lot of great places, right? Think universities as an example, right? Of putting out content through our system, as well as professors and experts and all of the great content that's there. So then think about, these basically contracts with these media organizations, right? Think about how the media organizations could want to have like the Uniting for Action Minute, on their broadcast where, where it's something that helps them create a connection to this, that they're piggybacking on the brand and they're, creating awareness and they're, devoting some portion of their news broadcast or whatever it looks like, their channel basically to their audience, right? There will be all those kinds of partnerships. We'll have a lot, it'll be interesting to see because there's going to be a lot of different everything, but everything we can envision, as long as it's a win-win. And we haven't talked about that, but it's important, to get on video, is that, that's the foundation of all of this, is like, how do we create win-win-wins for every stakeholder involved? And when we come from that perspective, from my perspective, the way my engineering mind has worked, is there's almost always a win-win to be had between two parties. There's almost always some level of common, interest, some common agreement, that you can somehow find some synergistic value or some leveraging the power of the collective, or, some external, real gain of value by bringing together those different, entities, and especially within a system like this that doesn't require a one-to-one exchange, right? So you can have this person offering this and this person offering this, and they're not going to each other, but they go to others, and then they get fed. And so now
it might facilitate a bunch of new wonderful partnerships. I was looking something up. That's why I was looking down. Zero-sum game. In math, that's a situation where the total gains match the losses. But in game theory, it's a mathematical representation in which an advantage that is won by one of two sides is lost by the other. I actually thought it was when both sides win. So just delete that out of the video. I thought a zero-sum game was when they both win, but there is a mathematical phrase for what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know the mathematical phrase other than what you've said before, which I agree with, which is the 1 + 1 = 3, that synergistic equation, basically.
Right.
The getting back to the the value that gets created, and we were talking about the media, what I just described in terms of like the partnership with the media is just a quick example of like, we can create wins for them. They can create wins for us. We can find a way to create a win-win relationship there, right?
Yeah, like
And
National Public Radio would be a great partner. They care about the environment so much. They gave us a lot of free coverage when we were doing the rideshare program. So different medias have different passions about different subjects as well, like inbred into the organization.
Exactly. And that's where we get to represent the framework, so to speak, right? So we don't have to come to them with a specific thing, but come to them to be a part of this framework and participate in this framework, right? And being a part of this and playing the role that the media can play in creating a new, a new reality. And it will, in certain cases, have some media outlets that will choose not to be a part of it because the resonant energy is not there, right? That they're not resonating in
They're
this
not
energy.
aligned.
They're not aligned, and they'll have to stay outside, and that will be okay, because we know that there's going to be a world that's going to exist outside. What we're going to keep doing is we're going to keep providing all the incentives that we can, incentivizing participation in this whole collective, that it's going to be very challenging for anyone to want to sit outside, right? That they're going to have some really strong reasons to want to remain apart from all of the inherent benefits within being a part of this ecosystem, right? So
FOMO, missing out.
You're missing out. Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna have a big attraction there. I know we've already gone on for more than an hour. I want to see and thank you again for spending all the time within the Uniting for Action aspect of all of this. Do you want to talk about some of the specific issue areas that you particularly care about, and maybe frame some of what you'd like to start putting out there? I think, based on where we're at, we should probably have another conversation where we go, deep into those areas and have more time to go into all of those areas.
No, I don't want to go into any issues right now, but I do want to have at the tail of this video, if we can address rules for the platform. So you're going to have people and entities that want to bring negativity to anything. It's just the state of human nature nowadays, whatever. People are jealous, people are, So the gentleman I described in Canada, he has rules for his Discord platform, and he will uninvite somebody when it's appropriate. And I think we're actually going to have to do that. I think to maintain our vision for what this is, which is remaining positive, not offensive, we're going to have the strength as leaders of deciding how this thing goes. Is a profile will get a violation, which the social media people hate that. They're like, I was kind of in a community violation. I don't know why, because everything I said was facts. It was just my mother talking about what happened after so-and-so. I don't know why I was removed, right? But we're going to have to communicate why with data to back it up, right? This is why your profile's been pulled. You have 60 days to whatever, or you're just pulled. I don't know. Hopefully we give people second and maybe third chances. But we're going to, as we, at least in the beginning, until people are in the habit of talking about solutions and keeping it positive and G or PG, we're going to have to clean it up, so that people have a positive user experience, because part of that's kind of going to be our main differentiator from all these other huge entities that are out there digitally. I think just some food for thought, that's going to take something.
I think those are important points. And I think that, for sure we need to have a whole team addressing that, because those are very important things. And there are a lot of different considerations. I think there are certain things that we can do to begin with to mitigate a bit of that. And I think the first thing we can do is where there will not be anonymous users of the system. So I think that's the first, important thing is that.
That's great. That's what Amazon does when they say it's a vetted purchaser.
Yeah, is that, you have to be a real person representing your real voice. And, whether that's a driver's license or whatever it is, a credit card, whatever it is that they have to register with. But, it's a good point because we need to build that technology and we don't have that technology checking right now. But I'm just giving you an example of how I think that that's the first way that, still obviously there's still people that are loud and proud, as a real person, but obviously a lot of trolling happens because they can be anonymous and don't have to, account for what they're saying and all that sort of thing, right? So I think that's the first thing. And then the other thing is if they are being a real person expressing a real feeling that they have, even if it's quite contrarian or whatever it is, we want to give them the space for that. But like you said, if it gets to like abusive language or anything like that, then it crosses a threshold just to show you, where we're at in terms of already with that, is that when we go to Uniting for Action, if you go down to the footer in the terms of service here, there is a whole clause in here. It's been a while since I've done this. I did this whole thing a couple of years ago. I spent a couple of weeks on it to really, get it.
Maintaining a safe and welcoming environment is paramount for Uniting for Action. Beautiful.
Yeah, so it gets into all of these things that, you can't do.
Sexual, violent, profane, illegal, etc. Perfect. Yep. No, that's critical because I want the user experience to be something unlike what they're seeing. Many of my friends have just disconnected from some of the major social media because they just can't handle one side or the other being bombarded by these things every day that are so incendiary, is that the word? But so yeah, let's create a new space. The purple choice for branding is so great because we need to allow a safe space. People's visions can be heard, back it up with data. Here's how we want you to back it up, and let's go from there. And then, like you said, what'll happen is the algorithms will raise a reputation. Maybe eventually, like so-and-so earns a sterling or platinum reputation with a little icon. And
that's the way that I see that we can mitigate a bunch of that, because basically what you can do is you can have, like people that are rated so low because they're throwing flames and people are not wanting it, whatever, that like
the algorithm won't pick them up.
Well, it'll pick them up, but it'll put them below like this threshold, and you'll get to decide whether you ever see people below that threshold or not, right? Like, show me everything or show me the filtered view where I don't have to see all of that junk, essentially, right?
I love it, yeah.
And so it's there. We're not cutting people out, but they're just by their own actions putting themselves in a place where their voice is being marginalized because of their behavior, basically, right? So this is a way that we can kind of build algorithmically incentives into having more civil discourse rather than, but not having to pick winners and losers, but just incentivize the ways that people behave.
Civil is the word. Exactly. That's all I was addressing. I just don't want to create something that gives right, because we are taking on a huge project here to talk about the best solutions, and people get very heated about their passion and their, and in passion things get said that probably shouldn't be. So I like that you have these fail safes built into the terms and conditions.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And so, yeah, the terms and conditions are there. And again, you can read them later if you think there's anything that could be added or changed or anything like that. The other thing is, again, as soon as possible, we need lots of social psychologists and sociologists and all of the people that can help advise on how all of this should be built in order to be able to, help address ways that people are, let's say, acting out, for lack of a better term, right? Because, a lot of what comes out in terms of those discourses is just, pent up energy and feelings and all of that sort of stuff. And so what can we do to help assuage that and give people a place where they can feel heard and they can connect and they can, not, even if they started out angry, as I've been and continue to be about a lot of things, to choose to channel that anger into action that creates results rather than expressing anger.
Right.
I don't have any need to express my anger. I just have a need to channel it into creating the world that's different than what makes me angry.
Yeah, or we start building out the content in the library on more neutral things and leave like gun control and abortion for later. 'Cause
Well,
you know what
again,
I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, but again, it's going to be up to people. If you told, I didn't know that you didn't want to build out the channel around abortion or anti-abortion or whatever. But if you did, you're already here. I can't tell you, Catherine.
No, I have no,
I
I
know,
have
but
no interest in those things. I know that people do. So
I know that's what I'm saying, is that we're not going to stop people from posting there, but it's just going to be that by and large, the energy that we're gathering around the leadership, and that therefore will be the foundation of this to begin with, are people that are really committed to creating a lot of great good in the world, right? And are not necessarily people that are, strident about a particular issue that they feel like they have to get something across. That's not, I'm not going to say that couldn't slip through the cracks, so to speak, but it's not the people that I'm looking for, to build this out with. I'm looking for the people that really want to not weigh us down by energetic, firestorms. That's only going to, like you're saying, inhibit our expansion, because it's going to create, concerns and worries for others before.
We want to avoid being political. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome. That's
cool.
Great.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing up those parts about the rules and that sort of thing. And I do think that we still do need to come up with rules and guidelines and public rules and agreements, and have it be a real specific agreement, when somebody is becoming a member. It already is that, in terms of they are agreeing to the terms of service that I just showed you when they become a member. But even beyond that, not just in small print in the terms of service, but, front and center, maybe a video that they have to watch talking about expected behavior as a member or something like that.
I love it. I love it. And now you have this little body of data here in one of the snippets that you can cut and put over here. And as you're talking to people who bring that up, like, well, how are you going to keep it like that? The world is like this and you're trying to build this. Now you have like an initial discussion. So I'm starting to already see how you think and how you're collecting data and then compartmentalizing it very engineering.
Yeah, thank you. And with what you just said, like in terms of like the ways to mitigate that or deal with that, that's an issue that's top of mind for so many companies right now, right? And therefore, it's an issue that's top of mind for so many students that want to get employed by those companies providing answers to that, right? So what great place to have an internship here to be able to address all of these things right now within our organization, so that they can then go get hired by those other organizations or get hired by us in 6 months or whatever, So, yeah.
Cool. All right, fantastic.
Yes, thank you, Kat, for taking the time. It's been so great to connect, and I really appreciate all that you're holding for us to be able to have this conversation and now be able to share all this content, on the website and as part of this. So really, really awesome. Thank you so much.
Great. And let me know, I'm going to talk to a couple people to follow up, and then when it's appropriate, we'll have a conversation in the next couple days or week.
Yeah, actually, let's stop the recording now and let's talk for a couple minutes.
Okay, cool.